and welcome to the Rural Well podcast. We are Bridget and Loren, and we are thrilled to have you with us. Today, we want to talk about farm rescue, an organization near and dear to those of us here in North Dakota, and particularly the Midwest. And I can't wait to introduce it to so many more of you out there. So you may be joining us today while you're cleaning the oven, hanging out the rugs on the wash line. Maybe you are doing something like just moving the augers around the yard. So whether you're doing any of those things, we want you to know we had the well-being of rural areas like yours in mind when we built this episode. We know the ag industry has its challenges, but we're right alongside you, and we cannot wait to connect one generation and legacy to the next. Okay, Loren, I found us a guest. I hope you enjoy this as much as I will.
I'm really looking forward to it. When it comes to agriculture and farmers, sometimes we need a really unique approach because the issues we face are unique and the limitations and barriers sometimes to getting support are a little bit more unique. So I'm excited because our guest today has a solution. Like there's some active solutioning going on. And so that is such poor English, active solutioning.
Oh, I thought it was creative.
It was. There was some creative juices that were flowing. So I've just altered the English language for the benefit of all of our listeners. Solutioning is happening. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Tim. Tim, actually, if you don't mind introducing yourself, Tim, we're excited to learn more about the work that you're doing with Farm Rescue.
Yes, thank you, Lauren. Tim Sullivan, Executive Director, Farm Rescue. Farm Rescue is located in just south of Fargo, North Dakota, at Horace, North Dakota. That's our headquarters. We cover an 11-state area, doing the actual farm work for families that are going through a crisis of either an injury, illness, or natural disaster. And our work is all done by the volunteers that come and serve these families annually.
So, okay, the origin story of how Farm Rescue began is something I think people need to know because your founder, Bill Gross, saw a need, and then he doesn't hesitate to help find ways to solve that need.
Yeah, just an amazing story out of the goodness of his heart and where he came from. Bill is a native of Cleveland, North Dakota, which is just to the west of Jamestown, North Dakota. His family, he was the last of 6 in his family, and they had a very large ranch, a lot of cattle, a lot of land, and they struggled in the 1980s, just like a lot of families did. My family did the same. It changed the trajectory of a lot of people's lives, and it definitely changed Bill's life because there was really nothing there left to come back to on the family farm. So Bill put himself through aviation school in the 1980s and at Grand Forks at UND. And then after he graduated, he became an airline captain for Pan Am for a few years when Pan Am was still a thing. And then he, for the last 32 years, I believe, he's been with UPS. So he is based out of Anchorage, Alaska right now. Bill is got a young family out of Anchorage there, but Bill still flies the Northern Asian route for UPS. And on one of these routes back in 2005, he was with one of his co-pilots that he's friends with, and they were talking and at 30,000 feet, and Bill was just mentioning, I'd like to do this when I retire. I'd like to go back and help farm families. I grew up and it's a tough goal when they're going through something. And he just thought it would be a good idea to start a nonprofit. And the co-pilot turned to him and said, "Hey, Bill, don't wait till you're retired. Do it now." And so within a couple of weeks, he had filed the paperwork for a 501c3 out in North Dakota. And the rest is history. In 2006, that spring, Bill, with a handful of volunteers, helped 10 families plant their crops that year. With the help of Ron Offit and RDO equipment, they provided the equipment to do the actual planting, and the rest is history. It's now we've just gone over the 1,300th family that we've served. And so we've been hauling a lot of hay as of lately. So we're active in serving since February, serving these families. So yeah, go ahead.
There's so much to this, Bill. For Bill to have done that, to taken the idea and said, you know what, I'm not going to wait. I am going to get this started. And in 20 years' time, what it's grown to, that in and of itself is a mental lift to people who are listening, because they're thinking, that guy practically moved a mountain.
Yeah. No, ton of respect for Bill in what he sacrificed on his own to get things launched and to form an organization. And he's still very active on our board today. I talk to Bill weekly. And he might be in Japan or China or wherever he's at, but we make it happen, and he keeps very close tabs on what's going on with Farm Rescue.
Wow, I am inspired and really feeling so appreciative. For sure, for the the beginning steps, because those beginning steps are difficult, but to reach 1,300 families. Now, you said that you help out families who are experiencing health-related issues, natural disasters. Can you give us a little bit of a feel of what that looks like for a family? Is there a certain criteria, or how does that work?
So, farm families are proud. So a lot of times they're very hesitant to apply for our services. In North Dakota, we're very well known, South Dakota, Minnesota, but you get out into our newer geographic area, and it's not that way. People, they may have heard of us, they don't really know who we are. Trust is a big thing, and then it's the pride issue of being a farmer. I'll give my help, but I'm the last to take it. And so we get a lot of referrals. Families, friends will come to us, business associates, maybe it's their seed dealer, fertilizer dealer, agronomist, and they'll tell us, hey, this family's going through something. I know you guys help a lot of folks, and can we work together to help this family? That happens most of the time. So the way this works is they'll apply eventually through our website at farmrescue.org. Through that process, they can tell us a little bit about what's going on, what they need help with, and then we reach out right away. That when that comes back off our website, it goes directly to myself, and then it goes to our operations team. So very efficiently, we're talking about that right away, and within a day, we're getting back to that family, talking a little bit more in depth about how we can serve them, calming their fears about us. They want to know a little bit more about us and what we do. But we'll serve the families that are going through a horrible diagnosis of maybe an illness of cancer or some related type thing that is going to be debilitating to them. Maybe it's a big surgery coming up. So those things get on our schedule, fairly fast. Right away in December, we're starting to get those calls and those emails and applications. So we already know some of these things that are, being planned. But then there's the more immediate things, the heart attacks, maybe a death in the family, could even be a suicide or something that affects that family. So those are immediate things where we have to pivot very fast, and we're built for that. We have equipment and volunteers that are ready to go in different pockets of our territory that we cover in 11 states. And so it's very efficient that way. And the heart of these volunteers is that they're going to make it happen regardless. They get stretched in the season, but when these families need help, they're going to find a way to make it happen. Over the course of the last 21 years of Farm Rescue, we've had over 3,000 different volunteers serve. And many of them continue to come back. Some have aged out of the system or passed on, and we honor those folks continually. And so it's just a wonderful cycle of how it's growing, the mission continues to be accepted and used.
I want to make sure people understand it's not free, right? The farm still provides the seed if we're planting, the fertilizer, et cetera, but there is an assistance that comes with the volunteer labor and the equipment. So that's, it's not just a handout. This is a hand up. This helps get that crop in the ground when we're up against the clock because of health, whether that's physical or mental. And then additionally, weather always plays a part in what we do too.
Yeah, exactly. So, our labor is provided by the volunteers. We do have a small staff that, is coordinating those folks and coordinating the equipment, meeting with the families, with the volunteers, making sure things are done safely in a professional manner. And we have lead volunteers on every case. These are folks that have been on many cases and have seen a lot of different families over that time, and so they pretty much know how things work, and watch everybody else and make sure that they're falling into place. A lot of training goes on at that time too, so we're continually getting folks so they're comfortable in our equipment. Sometimes we will not bring our equipment, but we'll just bring a volunteer and run the equipment of the farmers. If it passes our inspection for safety and productivity, we're going to utilize their equipment to make it happen as well.
Tim, can I ask about funding? Because of course I'm here like, oh, how can we help? And I mean, I'm in Canada and I want to help. And we do have a kind of a similar program in one province in Alberta, in Quebec, where I think they have a number of farmers who will come in and kind of do something similar. I don't know if it's exactly the same at all, but I'm so inspired by this kind of practical grassroots, like come alongside. I think it's one of the most powerful ways we can demonstrate community to one another. So I'm curious, of course, where does your funding come from? Or are you you're a charitable donation? So do you do fundraisers or what does that look like?
Yes. So we do quite a bit of fundraising. What we do is very expensive. So the equipment, some of it we have to own, some of it we lease, some of it we rent. And when possible, we borrow it. So it's a lot of asks out there in the industry. Of course, our funding comes primarily in 4 different ways. We have a partnership with the industry and even outside of the industry of farming that supports our program. Bill started that right from day one, and that I mentioned RDO Offit equipment, Ron Offit. Ron got him off on the right foot because Ron said, you can't do this alone. You need partners. And so he was the first partner to come on board. And then, today we're working with several different franchise John Deere dealerships. We're working with corporate and from there, it's a lot of different corporate and business entities, around 200 of them that support us in a big way, either in an in-kind or cash, and so making it happen. The second way we fundraise is through individual donations. So we do things like Giving Hearts Day out of North Dakota, Fargo. So we support the operations in North Dakota and Northwest Minnesota through that, where we're part of a larger campaign. Many different nonprofits are a part of it. We just happen to be lucky enough to be one of the top 3 that is supported each year. And then other than that, we have different fundraising activities. We just came off of one the first part of March in Des Moines. and Iowa. And so the first of its kind down there. We've had different fundraisers in North Dakota and South Dakota and Minnesota. But yeah, it's just great to meet new people that way. You get to come together and hear some stories of some families and all of that. The fourth way that we're supported is through family estates and trusts. So when, if we're lucky enough to be included in somebody's estate, that goes a long way in sustaining us for the future. That money is very important because it actually is a rainy day fund for us, so that we're able to grow and plan and take on more responsibility each year. So.
Tim, I'd really like you to talk just a moment about the impact on the families. Like when you make that call and say, we're coming to help, what are the things that you hear back or after you've been there? Because it's not just the financial fears that they have, not just the physical barriers. Their mental wellness has to take a gigantic leap forward in knowing that someone came to be there for them.
Yeah, I have been in those living rooms, those barns, those shops, having this conversation with people that, they desperately need help. And I'm not there to, make up their mind for them, but I'm just telling them what we can do for them. And you can just see the weight come off their shoulders as you're saying this, and they're accepting what we're laying out for them. It's just like, okay, I don't have to bother my neighbors. I don't have to put this whole load on just a few people. Farm Rescue is there to share it. A lot of times when we're planting or harvesting or haying a crop, we'll have others come and help out. There'll be a second combine come from the neighbor. Well, that's wonderful because it speeds things up for us. And so we can go on to the next family in a bigger way. And so it's really wonderful. Now, after we're done, we get many, many thank yous from these families. They continually come in throughout the year. Christmas is a big time for us because we get lots of Christmas cards, staying close. Our volunteers stay extremely close to these families. We're not a advertised faith-driven organization, but you can see the faith come through our volunteer base. It's amazing. And they wrap their arms around these families and they're friends for a lifetime after that. And a lot of those families, I'm saying a good percentage of them will eventually pay it forward and become a volunteer of some kind and serve in a capacity to help others. So it's a real wonderful experience to see that come all the way around. When I'm at farm shows, I talk to a lot of people. Oh, I remember back in 2007, you guys helped my brother, and the tears will still flow.
Yes.
So it's wonderful to see that still being appreciated after that amount of time.
It just shows you the impact, right? That when we meet somebody in their time of need as a sense of community, not from here, let me bail you out perspective, but hey, let me be the hands and feet, right? Like, let me just come alongside because I know I could be in this place next year. And I would hope somebody would come alongside as well. It's just beautiful example of what the rural community can be and has been, and with organizations like Farm Rescue will continue to be.
Yeah.
My dad's no longer with us, but he volunteered a year during harvest, and he will tell you that if he were still here too, I guess, Dad would tell you that was one of the things that he was most proud of, was being able to do that and just be with that family. And as another farmer, being able to reach out and help somebody else. And when he was sick, I remember folks coming to us and saying, do you want us, should we refer you to Farm Rescue? Maybe it's your turn. And my dad just said, oh, there's people in worse shape than we are. But yet, he couldn't wait to be a part of helping somebody else. That's really a foundation of farm rescue.
We hear that all the time. People say, this person might have stage 4 cancer of some kind. And they're saying there's somebody else that needs it more than I do. I hate to take up your time to help me. This happens all the time. And what they have to be told is you need to help. What you're doing by saying yes is you're helping so many more people say yes.
Yeah.
Take your pride, put it on the shelf, and let us just come in, do what we do, and make no fanfare about it. And hopefully you can heal, recover, and come back.
Tim, can I ask, early on, you mentioned kind of the 1980s, the farm crisis, and what such a painful piece of our histories, because so many farm families experience so much distress. As a therapist, I still see the fallout of that distress now, right? From a generational perspective, we still see that fallout. And I remember my dad telling the story in the 80s. He went to the bank of grandma. There was no way for them to survive unless if, grandma gave them a loan, because the banks, they couldn't afford a loan for the interest rate that was there. I've got to be honest with you. In the farmers that I speak with now, which are many, they are kind of likening the environment now to that farm crisis of the 80s. Are you seeing an increase in need, maybe because of the climate disasters, or is there an increased need because some of our safety networks, aren't in place anymore?
We are definitely seeing the need. We feel it. When we're talking to people, that weight is getting heavier and heavier over the last 3 years. And it's a survival thing on one respect. They're saying, I don't know if I'll be able to secure a loan this spring or whatever like that, and we haven't heard that for many years. So, we feel for those people. We're not there to save a bankruptcy or anything like that. We want to see a possibility of the farm going on. That's generational. We want to see that happen. That's part of our vision, part of our mission. And, but it doesn't change the fact that there's pressure out there on these folks, and we're seeing it in a bigger way right now.
Yeah, I think what I noticed too is that it doesn't take much for things to turn quickly, right? Like farmers can go from making a lot of money to losing a lot of money very quickly. But when farm families are already stretched and then somebody gets sick, right? Or then somebody gets injured, or it just doesn't take much for us to be in a place of significant need. And so what an encouragement that Farm Rescue is there to meet those situations that are unpredictable, and those, regarding health and regarding, natural disasters and some of those pieces that you had mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the burden that's relieved when that call comes from someone who's been lying awake at night worrying how they're going to get this crop planted or harvested, and Farm Rescue can take some of that burden off of them. That to me is just tremendous.
Yeah. It's, and you can see it. You can see that heaviness. And then when we're done and our people are ready to go and leave the yard, hugs, tears, exchanging information, it's just, it's a real aha moment when you look at them from when you first talk to them and then you're leaving. They feel a sense of hope after we leave.
Yeah.
They got some time now to plan and to figure things out going forward.
I'm curious to kind of just as we close off this piece, Tim, do you have a story that you could share? I mean, obviously confidentiality, you need to change things and make sure it's not, but do you have a family story that you could share just to kind of put the meat on the bones for our listeners?
Yeah. So, back in 2022, we were we had been in Iowa for a few years, and so we had a family down there. Through their seed company, we found out that there was an injury. So I went down there to help out, meet with this family in person because we were stretched for people to get there, and so. This couple was not young. They were in their 70s, mid 70s, and beautiful farm. They had cattle, Angus registered cattle, but they had cropland and beans and corn. And this gentleman was kicked by a cow in calving season. And he broke his leg right at the knee. And he had been out there for 6 hours up against the fence, and his wife, was calling him, and of course his phone was not on him; it was in his side-by-side. And so she finally went down to the barn and found him, and they got a neighbor and got him to the hospital and all of that. But when I came down there, he had just had surgery at Mayo Clinic, and then at Mayo Hospital. St. Mary's. And then I met with them in their living room. He's got a huge cast on and immobile. I mean, he really just can't hardly hobble. And he's wondering about us, how things are going to get done. I reassured him and her that, this is exactly what we do. Your seed company that you work with is a sponsor, a partner in what we do. So it makes perfect sense to make this happen. And so then 2 weeks later, we had a crew putting in his crop for him. We were actually rained out a little bit, so we were fixing some of his existing equipment in his shop. Anything to feed the animals during that time, anything to stay busy with those volunteers while they couldn't be in the field. So after that experience, that person has helped us in so many ways through connections with other families in getting them to be a reference to what we do and to pay it forward in that respect. So those connections, those relationships, I can't tell you how important they are. They last a lifetime after that because it just goes on. And we stay in touch. I stay in touch with that family. When I'm driving through that way, I'll say, "Can I come in for a cup of coffee or whatever?" And they're always welcoming to have that done, and still talk about it today that it happened yesterday. They swear that they would have been in financial and mental health hardship through that process if we wouldn't have been able to help because there was nobody else. There was no family. There was no neighbor that was going to come in and help them. So, a lot of people say you save the farm. That's what we hear. So that's wonderful experience that I have.
Thank you for sharing that, Tim. Wow. What an impactful experience, impactful work that you're doing.
Yep. And that's just one of hundreds. So
right.
Literally hundreds.
Wow, just incredible work, Tim. I'm just we're at that stage in the podcast where we transition to our next spot, and this is an opportunity where we share a quote with one another and we provide a little bit of feedback. Kind of, what is this? Does this quote resonate with you? So the one that Bridget found for us is it was adapted by Wendell Berry. It says, "Good farmers contribute to the welfare of society in more ways than society usually acknowledges. Without proper care for the producer, we can have no community, because without proper care for them, we can have no life." Any thoughts on that between either of you?
I feel that that message has been somewhat lost over the years. There's not enough attention brought to, what the farmer brings to the world economy, to local economy, states. And it goes much, much deeper than Main Street. I mean, they're supporting the rural hospitals and the school systems and all of that. When we lose these farmers, and everybody's heard the stats, knows that each year they're dropping like flies. And that land is still being farmed, but it's being farmed by a corporate entity. And it's not sustaining those rural communities like a farmer family would sustain it. So that story just needs to stay out there so strong. Anytime we can talk mental health issues with these folks, because they are going through that crisis, along with the rest of the world. Farmers are no different. They're isolated sometimes, and so it's kind of a silent goodbye when they're gone, and that's really a sad thing to see. And so my hope is that people pay a lot more attention to the family farm. What's going on? This is so important to our the world and our local communities. We need to take care of them.
Farmers contribute, as it says, to the welfare of society in so many ways. And I think that we forget about some of those, whether it's the food we eat, the fuel, the fiber, but also they bring such a great sense of community. So you have those farmers who have been helped by farm rescue and then come to volunteer to help out, to be part of somebody else's rescue so that they can continue to grow their community. But also, I think that this quote acknowledges the fact that we can have no community without proper care for farmers. That's where the volunteers for farm rescue come in, because whether you can contribute monetarily, it's also as important to contribute with your time. You have a CDL and you're willing to haul equipment, haul hay for donations to wildfire-stricken areas. Farm can be a part of that community, and that contributes to the welfare of the farmers who contribute to our society. That's where I think of it.
There's an old statistic that says basically in 1931, it was like 1 in 3 farmers were connected directly to the farm. 1 in 3 people in our society was directly connected to the farm. Now it's 1 in 376. Now that's a loose stat. I can't even cite the location. I know it's accurate, but I think regardless of the exact numbers, we see that every day. There's a disconnect between the producers and the consumers, and that has led to increased isolation, as you talked about. I mean, obviously, we have increased isolation because of our remoteness sometimes, but it's the lack of understanding of what we do and why we're passionate about what we do and why we care well for our animals and why we care well for our soil and all of those pieces. And so I like the term without proper care for the producer. And I think, what does that proper care look like and how do we make that happen? And I think for certain, Farm Rescue is making that happen. I think for certain, Farm Rescue is offering proper care.
Yeah. That's really true.
Yeah, it has to be intentional. People have to really go out of their way to, you hear it, thank a farmer or whatever, but even go deeper than that, care about that family, what they're going through. And when times are tough like they are right now, the stress level is so high, and you can see it in the families, the parents, the children, all of that. So if it's the agronomists they're dealing with, the cooperative they're dealing with, or, Main Street, just pay attention to that family a little bit to, see what they're going through on the outside. And maybe there's something that others can do through counseling or through pastoring to these folks that, are silently,
Suffering.
And disappear just like that. And it's sad. So means so much to the communities that they serve. We can't lose another school in these small towns, because that's the heart of these small towns, and then they're gone forever.
Right.
So
yeah.
as you said, the pressure is so high. So I'm going to take a moment to give us a little laughter. I always have something at the end that we get to talk about that hopefully makes us just smile just a little bit. And here's one for you today. If you could enter a racehorse in the Kentucky Derby, what would you name your horse?
Oh,
talk about putting you on the spot.
Well, being it's Kentucky, I would say White Lightning.
Oh, well, that's a good one. White Lightning. Okay. Excellent.
Oh, I do not know. I have no idea.
I'm thinking because you raise sheep, I would use something like a woolly runner, right? So that she gets used along with the horse.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we could do something like that, something along the lines of a woolly runner. I like it. Yeah.
Because we've had so much wind out here on the prairie in the last few weeks, I've decided prairie wind. Maybe it's just because
I like it.
Maybe I'm just so tired of my eyebrows being back here because the wind is so rough. I
wouldn't mind going to the Kentucky Derby with you both. I think that would be fun. And then maybe after I've been, I would have I would be able to come up with a better name.
I once tried to make mint juleps, which are the official drink of the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah.
I was told I just made really awful bourbon drinks. So, no win there.
Good effort.
Thank you both so much for today. And I really hope that listeners enjoy our discussion of our farm rescue and take the time to go investigate them more, especially if you have a way to contribute with your time as well.
Yeah. And for sure, if you're listening and you need some support as well, don't hesitate to reach out to the National Farmer Mental Health Alliance, and we will connect you with a care provider in your area. Thanks so much, folks. Nice to see you, and see you next week.
Thank you.